Trump recently transformed Gavin Newsom into the deeply embarrassed executive within American politics. Gavin Newsom stared the commander of the United States in the face on live broadcasts, right in front of 40 cameras, and spoke the statement that broke him. He completely lacked the awareness to realize it was the exact statement that broke him. He falsely assumed it was the statement that rescued him. That remained the issue. That remained the constant issue regarding Gavin Newsom. He simply lacked the capacity to distinguish between the instance he was succeeding and the instance he was offering someone the blade. The media briefing was scheduled to span 15 minutes. A shared announcement regarding national infrastructure funding, banners positioned behind them, journalists situated at the rear. It was the sort of gathering that earns the nightly broadcast for 11 seconds and becomes forgotten before the host concludes the subsequent phrase. However, Newsom held alternative designs. His staff had dedicated 2 weeks preparing, every response drafted, every transition practiced. This event was absolutely not regarding infrastructure. This event was about optical media. This was an initial deposit for the 2028 election. To comprehend how an executive who had previously never lost an audience on broadcast lost one within 40 minutes, you must hear the initial remark he delivered and the inquiry the commander presented immediately afterward. Newsom approached the lectern initially. He perpetually approached initially. An individual from his team offered him a device. He looked at the display, acknowledged it, and slid it into the inner pocket of his coat. Donald walked out independently, lacking assistance, lacking a portfolio. He struck the lectern twice, utilizing his hand, similar to how one strikes a partition to verify if it remains empty. Following that, he partially grinned at no one specifically. Newsom commenced. He absolutely did not pause for inquiries. "Allow me to be precise regarding a matter before we commence," Newsom stated. "California remains the fourth most massive economy across the globe, more massive than Germany, more massive than India. We pioneer the country in digital tech, in sustainable power, in farming, in movies, in medical technology. This region has constructed more, pioneered more, and offered more toward the destiny of this nation than any region within the Republic. And we achieved it while battling a national government that has dedicated the preceding 12 months deploying military personnel into our municipalities and slashing the initiatives our households rely upon." He stopped, calculated it flawlessly. Following that, he gazed to his left, straight toward the individual positioned 4 feet away, and executed the phrase his staff had evaluated 3 times during practice. "With utter deference, Mr. President, we absolutely do not require guidance regarding administration from an individual who financially ruined gaming establishments." It connected. A handful of journalists seated in the initial tier performed that action, wherein they gazed downward at their notepads to conceal an expression. An assistant situated behind the media platform nodded twice rapidly. The phrase possessed sharpness, and it elicited damage. And Newsom recognized it because he executed the action he perpetually executed following a solid strike, which involved resting backward upon his heels and allowing the quietness to transport it. If you have ever observed an individual wearing a $5,000 garment preach to the Republic regarding equity while their personal territory collapses behind them, strike that approval button immediately. Because the commander simply grinned, and the initial inquiry he presents is destined to conclude the executive's entire midday. Donald completely ignored the slight. He entirely avoided showing irritation. He struck the lectern once again utilizing 2 fingers, gazing at Newsom in the manner an individual gazes at a builder who has recently provided him an appraisal that fails to calculate correctly, and nodded deliberately. "That was excellent," he stated. "That was truly excellent. Did you rehearse that specific one, executive? Or was that, completely spontaneous?" Newsom, remaining elevated by the gaming establishment remark, "I speak based on absolute certainty, Mr. President." Certainty. Donald echoed the term similarly to how he was rotating it within his palm, analyzing it for heaviness. "I favor that term." "All right, therefore we are speaking genuinely today." "Excellent, because I possess a couple of inquiries. Uncomplicated matters. Truly uncomplicated. The sort of matters an individual who financially ruined gaming establishments can comprehend." A handful of individuals chuckled. Donald partially grinned regarding his personal humor, the self-mockery connecting comfortably in the manner it perpetually did, because a disarming quality exists regarding an individual who preempts you concerning his personal shortcomings. However, beneath the grin, Beneath the relaxed posture and the comfortable pacing, a concept was being communicated. Newsom had recently verified on broadcast to the Republic that he speaks based on certainty, devoid of scripts, devoid of personnel, entirely genuinely. Everything he stated proceeding from this juncture he possessed. Executive, you stated California absolutely does not require rescuing. I listen to you. Therefore, simply assist me regarding a matter. For what duration have you been managing this territory? City leader, executive, entirely. Summation. I have represented California within administrative guidance for roughly 15 years. 15 years. Donald acknowledged. Extended duration? Excellent. Therefore, here is what I desire to comprehend. Truly uncomplicated, genuinely, like you stated when you commenced. The unhoused circumstance. Was it superior previously, or is it superior currently? Newsom's mandible moved by a small margin. He recognized the landscape. He had traversed it 100 instances, and he recognized where the unstable footing existed. Unhousedness is an intricate national emergency that necessitates ongoing national collaboration and funding toward psychological wellness frameworks that this current administration has systematically broken down. I absolutely did not inquire regarding the Republic executive. I inquired regarding your territory. Your 15 years, superior or worse, that is entirely it. And precisely here, an event occurred that the lenses recorded, however, that the majority of individuals observing currently entirely failed to notice, until subsequently, when the video had been reduced in speed and completely paused and analyzed in the manner individuals analyze the Zapruder tape. Newsom's gaze descended simply for a fraction of a second, downward to the lectern, to the location underneath the edge where his device rested within a compact alcove integrated into the stand. His gaze shifted downward, discovered an item there, shifted back upward. Following that, he spoke, and the fluidity returned, and the grin returned. We have funded more into tackling unhousedness than any territory within American history. $27 billion regarding direct funding possessing trackable outcomes, containing a 9% decrease regarding unsheltered demographics. $27 billion. Donald echoed the statistic then again. $27 billion. You recognize what I could accomplish utilizing 27? Observe, I have executed poor arrangements. Everyone recognizes the gaming establishments. They enjoy mentioning the gaming establishments. The meats. They enjoy the meats. He motioned to Palm. A handful of individuals chuckled. However, executive, here is what I require you to assist me regarding. You recently informed the entire Republic you expended $27 billion regarding unhousedness. Therefore, exactly how many unhoused individuals are resting upon the thoroughfares of California immediately? As I stated, we have witnessed a 9% decrease regarding unsheltered. The statistic, executive, absolutely not the proportion. The statistic. Roughly 187,000 persons face unhousedness within California during any particular evening. 187,000. Donald allowed the statistic to rest there. He absolutely did not hurry past it. He allowed it to breathe in the manner an individual allows negative information to breathe before he reacts to it. Executive, I have executed a handful of poor arrangements during my existence. I concede that. I am absolutely not, you recognize, I am absolutely not attempting to feign. However, I have absolutely never, during my existence, expended $27 billion and possessed more of the issue than when I commenced. He moved his cranium. I could not execute an arrangement that poor if I were attempting. That represents a massive oversimplification regarding an emergency that has spanned decades. It remains your statistic, executive, absolutely not mine. You recently stated it based on certainty. The space altered. Absolutely not a chuckle, a sharper element. The sensation of a statistic that had remained conceptual, unexpectedly acquiring mass, in the manner a cost identifier acquires mass when you recognize it belongs to you. Newsom maneuvered. He remained skilled at maneuvering, perhaps the greatest within the profession, and he traveled where the footing appeared most solid. If we are going to debate California's difficulties, allow us also to debate California's assets. This territory's financial production were, one term, Newsom halted, you were. That remains the issue, executive. You were the invention hub. You were the location everyone desired to inhabit. However, then, you recognize an amusing event occurred. Donald began tallying utilizing his digits deliberately. One digit sequentially. Tesla departed. You recall Tesla. Elon favored California, adored it. Then he departed. SpaceX departed, Oracle departed. Chevron, HP, Schwab. He elevated a collection of digits. Executive, those corporations absolutely did not travel to Texas because I shipped them a message. They fled from you. When Elon Musk states, you recognize what I would prefer to construct spacecraft within a marsh situated in South Texas rather than remain within your territory, he faded out, moving his cranium. That is absolutely not an economy, executive. That is a liquidation event. Corporations transfer bases regarding revenue. How regarding citizens? Do citizens depart regarding revenue motivations similarly? 1.7 million subsequent to 2020. You recognize what 1.7 million represents? That is the entire municipality of Phoenix, completely vanished, boxed up. And they absolutely did not travel to France, executive. They traveled to territories that function. And precisely there it occurred once again. The gaze downward. Fraction of a second. The device beneath the lectern edge, back upward. Anyone observing currently might absolutely not have noticed it the subsequent instance similarly. However, anyone who noticed it the initial instance noticed it presently. And inside their sitting spaces situated in Louisiana, situated in Ohio, inside the sections of the Republic that Newsom had previously labeled flyover during a broadcast he believed solely his supporters would listen to, they shifted forward. Because they had witnessed that expression previously, they had witnessed it regarding every intermediate administrator who ever reviewed his device underneath the meeting desk when the superior presented an inquiry he possessed entirely no ability to reply to. And they were beginning to comprehend a concept regarding the executive of California that the publications had absolutely never published. Newsom discovered his balance. Fluid once again. Grin returned. Citizens additionally traveled to California. We documented demographic expansion preceding 12 months spanning the third continuous. Based on entry, executive. Nationals are departing. You are completely losing the occupants and promoting regarding novel ones. That represents a profoundly deceptive description. Is it incorrect? Newsom absolutely did not reply to that specific one. He informed the Republic he expended $27 billion regarding unhousedness and possesses more unhoused individuals than when he commenced. The most massive corporations across the globe escaped his territory. 1.7 million citizens boxed up and departed. And every instance the commander presents an inquiry, the executive gazes downward toward his device. Place one term inside the responses immediately, exactly one. Arriving, remain present. Because the executive is preparing to battle back more intensely than he has ever battled. And you require to hear what he states, Donald altered. The entertainer relaxed a level, and a more silent element transmitted through. Observe, I am absolutely not going to position myself here and feign I am flawless. I am absolutely not. I have spoken foolish items. I have executed foolish items. I previously informed an audience I represented the most modest individual within the space. He stopped. That absolutely did not proceed excellently. The space chuckled. Genuine chuckling this instance, welcoming. The variety that arrives when an individual allows you to chuckle alongside him rather than directed at someone else. Following that, the tone altered, more gentle. Absolutely not acted. Or assuming it was acted, it represented the variety of action that rests so adjacent to reality that the junction vanishes. However, here is what I comprehend regarding the citizens who genuinely observe. The citizens situated at residence. They completely disregard if you appear refined. They completely disregard regarding the hair. He looked toward Newsom. Apologies, executive. Chuckling again. They value precisely one item. Do you execute what you stated you were planning to execute? That represents it. That represents the entire evaluation, the entire item. And those citizens, the individuals observing immediately, they have been successfully completing that evaluation every individual day regarding their existences. Discharging the loan, maintaining the power active, arriving toward the employment when they absolutely do not desire to, maintaining their promise toward their relatives, toward their community members, toward citizens they have recognized spanning 30 years within municipalities that nobody within Washington has ever traveled to. He gazed toward the lenses, and spanning a duration, simply a duration. The entertainer was absolutely not speaking toward a space. He was speaking toward a culinary desk. They executed every day lacking a media team, lacking a magazine aesthetic, lacking anybody positioned at a lectern informing them they hold significance. They simply execute it because that defines who they remain. Pause. And they remain fatigued. They remain genuinely fatigued regarding observing individuals who lack the ability to successfully complete that evaluation preached to them regarding how the republic should function. If you have been maintaining your promise, discharging your debts, and arriving every day lacking a media team while observing individuals who lack the ability to maintain exactly one commitment, inform you how to exist, this specific one applies to you. Place one term inside the responses. Arriving. Absolutely do not travel anywhere, because the executive is preparing to strike back, utilizing everything he possesses left. And you require to hear it. Newsom had reached his limit. An element altered inside him, and the script-based fluid speaking shattered. And what emerged appeared unfiltered and more heated and more hazardous than anything his personnel had drafted upon any document. This remained entirely unpracticed. This represented Newsom furious, authentically furious. And the reality regarding Gavin Newsom is that he remains more hazardous furious than he appears refined. Because the fury is authentic, and the refinement is absolutely not. And when the authentic element emerges, it possesses sharpness that the drafted iteration entirely lacks. You desire to position yourself within my territory and discuss maintaining your promise? You? He rotated completely toward Donald, forsaking the lenses spanning the initial instance entire midday. You informed the American citizens Mexico was going to finance a barrier. Did they? You informed them you were going to publish your revenue documents. Did you? You informed them the illness was going to vanish preceding springtime. You informed them to insert chemicals directly inside their physical forms. How exactly did that proceed, Mr. President? He moved nearer toward his audio receiver. You represent a penalized criminal. You excused individuals who attacked law enforcement utilizing American banners. You isolated offspring away from their maternal figures located at the boundary, and you entirely misplaced them. You misplaced offspring, and you position yourself here within my territory, and you preach to me regarding arriving. He moved even nearer toward his audio receiver, and his tone descended. And what emerged subsequently absolutely did not represent a messaging point. It represented a menace. I am going to litigate against you every individual instance you violate the legislation. I am going to obstruct you every instance you exceed authority. And assuming you deploy precisely one additional military person inside precisely one additional American municipality, entirely against the consent regarding the citizens who reside there, I am going to remain positioned upon the legal building entrances the subsequent dawn, possessing every single legal professional inside this territory supporting me. That absolutely does not represent a commitment, Mr. President. That represents an itinerary. He gazed toward the lenses currently. Absolutely not toward Donald. Toward America. This represents the individual who desires to represent your monarch. Absolutely not your commander. Your monarch. And every instance an individual resists, he awards them a moniker and travels forward toward the subsequent gathering. That absolutely does not represent power, Mr. President. That represents an outburst inside a garment. And it connected. Award him that. Toward the conclusion, it connected powerfully. A journalist situated in the third tier ceased documenting and gazed upward, possessing the look regarding an individual who remained, completely against vocational habits, astounded. The space shifted. Energy completely and totally rested with Gavin Newsom spanning roughly 30 seconds. He represented the completely most potent iteration regarding himself that was present. And assuming the gathering had concluded precisely there, the footage would possess broadcast upon every channel, displaying the text Newsom strikes back against Trump. And the 2028 dialogue would possess commenced that evening. However, the gathering absolutely did not conclude there, and Donald absolutely did not waver. He allowed Newsom to conclude. He allowed the space to process it. He allowed the quietness subsequent to the final term to extend a moment beyond relaxed. Following that, he spoke, and his tone was entirely deeper currently and more deliberate. and an aspect regarding it caused the journalists situated in the initial tier to shift forward, because they possessed the ability to sense the frequency alter. Executive, I am preparing to remain truthful alongside you. 50% regarding the items you recently stated regarding me. Accurate. Potentially greater than 50%. I remain absolutely not a perfect figure. Everyone recognizes I remain absolutely not a perfect figure. My spouse recognizes. My offspring recognize. Entire republic recognizes. The space remained motionless. Donald conceding error on live broadcast was absolutely not contained within anybody's drafting. However, here's what I perceived, executive, and I assess the citizens situated at residence perceived it similarly. He elevated a palm, tallying digits once again. I inquired to you regarding your unhoused. You responded utilizing January 6th. I inquired to you regarding your corporation's departing. You responded utilizing the boundary. I inquired to you regarding 1.7 million citizens traveling away from your territory. And you offered me a monologue regarding me. He lowered the palm. Executive, assuming your territory remains succeeding so excellently, why do you lack the ability to discuss it spanning 2 minutes entirely, lacking stating my identifier? 3 inquiries regarding his personal territory. 3 responses regarding someone alternatively. If you possess ever inquired to a leader, an uncomplicated inquiry and received everything excluding a response, follow entirely currently. Because what the executive states subsequently, he absolutely did not design it. His personnel absolutely did not draft it. And it represents the statement that alters everything. Remain. The space anticipated. Newsom was required to pause. His personnel observing originating from behind the lenses subsequently conceded toward 3 separate journalists that they were wordlessly pleading him to maneuver backward toward infrastructure, backward toward the script, backward toward anything possessing firm footing underneath it. However, Gavin Newsom completely lacked the ability to pause. He possessed absolutely never been equipped to pause. It represented the item that had transformed him into a celebrity, and it represented the item that was preparing to conclude him. And the separation between those dual results represented exactly one statement. You desire to discuss fidelity, Mr. President. Regarding confidence, I possess absolutely never double-crossed the citizens who placed confidence in me. The citizens regarding California elected me double, overcoming a removal effort, overcoming every single strike, overcoming every single deception this administration possesses hurled toward us. Because they recognize I arrive. I absolutely do not flee. I absolutely do not conceal. And I absolutely do not double-cross. The term departed his oral cavity, and the space processed it. And 50% regarding the space recognized what was arriving, and the remaining 50% absolutely did not. And the separation between those dual halves represented the separation between an inhalation and a quietness, and what occupied the space represented the quietness. Donald ceased striking the lectern. He ceased maneuvering his mass. He ceased executing every little agitated action he had been executing spanning 30 minutes. What exited him during that instance represented the entertainer, the actor, the showman. Entirely regarding it vanished similarly to an outerwear dropping away from a seat. And what persisted appeared motionless and horizontal and balanced. Executive, silent presently. You recently stated you possess absolutely never double-crossed the citizens who placed confidence in you. Absolutely not an inquiry, a repetition. Every single term positioned downward upon the desk similarly to a vessel that possesses the ability to shatter. Absolutely never. That represents the term you utilized. Newsom perceived the alteration, however lacked the ability to withdraw away from it. I commit toward that. All right, Donald acknowledged deliberately. Alex Torque, dual terms. Following that quietness. Your electoral manager, your closest companion. What duration did you recognize him? Executive. 10 years, Newsom tense. Mr. President, this remains underneath the decorum regarding what duration. Alex Torque represented an esteemed associate and I possess spoken regarding. He represented your closest companion, executive. Everyone recognizes it. He managed your electoral efforts. He constructed Homeless Connect regarding you. That represented the initiative that established your identifier within entirely this. That individual defended you every individual day, placed confidence in you utilizing his profession, placed confidence in you utilizing his existence. Genuinely. The variety regarding confidence you construct spanning 10 years when you travel amidst the battles alongside each other. Pause. And you engaged intimately alongside his spouse. The quietness that preceded absolutely did not represent the quietness subsequent to humor. It represented the alternative variety, the variety that possesses mass, the variety you perceive upon your epidermis, the variety where you turn conscious regarding the noise concerning the air circulation network because entirely nothing alternatively exists. And here represents the item I desire the citizens situated at residence to hear: executive, because you perpetually discuss responsibility. When you became discovered, you positioned yourself in front regarding lenses exactly similarly to these, and you informed the Republic you were obtaining assistance, traveling toward recovery, treating it genuinely. He leaned his cranium. Did you travel? I spoke regarding that issue openly. Did you travel toward recovery, executive? That represents a profoundly private. You informed the Sacramento publication 11 years subsequent. Your statements. Genuinely. You stated, and I reference, there remains entirely no recovery. I simply paused. There remained entirely no assistance. Entirely nothing. Donald moved his cranium. Absolutely not fury. An element nearer toward amazement. You informed the entire Republic you were obtaining assistance. And you absolutely did not travel. You simply stated the item because that represents what you execute, executive. You state what the space requires to hear, and subsequently, you execute whatever you were perpetually intending to execute. He stopped, and subsequently he stated the statement that caused every single person inside that space to review the preceding 30 minutes inside their minds. You possess been executing it the entire duration we possess, been positioning ourselves here. You recognize that, correct? Exactly one statement, and it connected similarly to a metallic opener rotating inside a mechanism. Because unexpectedly every single person observing inside the space and situated at residence perceived it. The entire sequence. Absolutely not because Donald detailed it, because they had observed it occur in actual duration 3 instances consecutively. The unhousedness inquiry. Newsom's gaze had descended toward the device underneath the lectern. He had shifted back upward, possessing a pivot regarding national emergency. The departure inquiry. The gaze had descended once again. He had shifted back upward, possessing a strike upon Donald's legal background. The double cross. The gaze had descended a 3rd instance. He had shifted back upward, possessing a monologue regarding the decorum concerning his position. Exact identical action. Exact identical fraction of a second glance downward. Exact identical fluid restoration. Exact identical grin arriving back active similarly to a monitor restarting. Every individual instance. 3 concerning 3. And the citizens situated at residence. The individuals shifting forward inside their seats. They absolutely did not require anybody to detail it toward them, because they had observed it occur exactly one subsequent to another, and the sequence appeared so pristine and so steady that it appeared less similarly to a revelation, and more similarly to a verification regarding an item they had perpetually theorized, however absolutely never possessed the proof regarding. You possess been executing the exact identical item positioned at this lectern, spanning 40 minutes that you possess been executing inside Sacramento, spanning 15 years. He absolutely did not detail. He absolutely did not enumerate instances. He absolutely did not require to. Every single person observing had already linked it regarding themselves, and the coldness that traveled amidst the space represented the coldness regarding identification. Absolutely not disclosure. The sensation regarding witnessing an item you had perpetually perceived, however, absolutely never possessed the terms regarding. And presently, an individual positioned at a lectern had offered you the terms. And they matched. He simply stated it. He identified it. The exact identical action. The exact identical grin. The exact identical glance downward. Spanning 15 years. And presently, he desires to execute it, originating from the executive mansion. Assuming that concept maintains you awake during evening, Distribute this footage alongside exactly one person who requires to witness it. Exactly one, following that return. Because the executive possesses exactly one item remaining, and what the commander states subsequent to it represents an item I require you to hear every single term regarding. Newsom remained positioned at the lectern silent, spanning an extended duration. When he spoke once again, an item had altered. The fluid was absent. The practiced was absent. What emerged appeared deeper and harsher and more truthful than anything he had stated entire midday. And it represented spanning a duration genuinely gorgeous within the manner that the reality is occasionally gorgeous when it ultimately shatters amidst the exterior, regarding an individual who possesses expended their entire existence refining it. You desire to dismantle me downward toward my lowest day. Acceptable. His tone snagged upon the term acceptable, and he allowed it to snag. However, you absolutely do not receive authorization to seize my existence. I completely lacked the ability to decipher a text section until I reached 12 years of age. Educators informed me I appeared foolish. Foolish. They drafted it inside assessments that my maternal figure was required to endorse. My guardians separated. I battled regarding everything I possess, everything, and I remained continuously here, continuously positioned inside spaces where individuals desire me to tumble. I possess been battling preceding you, recognized my identifier. Mr. President, every individual day, and it appeared authentic, or assuming it remained absolutely not authentic. It rested so adjacent to authentic that the separation absolutely did not possess significance, and the space perceived it. And a journalist situated in the secondary tier gazed downward toward her palms. And even Donald, even the individual who had recently dismantled him apart at the junctions, remained motionless and silent and absolutely did not intervene. Because whatever Gavin Newsom represented during that instance, he appeared mortal, and the space was indebted to him regarding that. He recently positioned everything upon the desk. The impairment, the guardians, the battle, and it appeared authentic. You possess the ability to hear it appeared authentic. However, the commander absolutely did not close his eyes. He remained positioned there, and he anticipated. And what he stated subsequently represents the rationale this footage will remain recalled 10 years, originating from currently. Activate alerts immediately so you absolutely do not overlook what arrives subsequently. Donald allowed the quietness to maintain. He absolutely did not hurry it. He allowed Newsom's terms to remain inside the atmosphere, within the manner you allow fragrance to remain. Inside a space subsequent to the fire has vanished outwards when he spoke. His tone appeared distinct. Absolutely not the entertainer. Absolutely not the combatant. An item you absolutely do not hear frequently originating from the individual. An item that rested adjacent toward admiration. Executive, I trust you. I trust you battled. Nobody positioned at this lectern is declaring you entirely failed to battle. A youth who lacks the ability to decipher at 12 and reaches toward where you remain positioned immediately. An item authentic exists inside that. I sincerely intend it. Pause. However, here represents the item that 40 million citizens inside your territory possess, been attempting to comprehend spanning 15 years, and I assess they recently accomplished it. He gazed toward Newsom. Absolutely not toward the lenses. Toward him. You recently offered an intense monologue regarding your battle, your impairment, your youth, your guardians, your entire existence, and it appeared authentic. I trust every single term you stated. Pause. However, executive, inside that entire monologue, the specific one you recently offered genuinely, you absolutely did not identify them exactly once. Quietness. Absolutely not the 187,000 citizens resting upon your pathways this evening. Absolutely not the households who lack the ability to generate lease. Absolutely not the dining establishment proprietor who was required to shut permanently while you consumed situated at the French Laundry alongside influence peddlers. Absolutely not the 1.5 million citizens who boxed up everything they possessed and drove completely away from your territory because they completely lacked the resources to remain. He remained silent, spanning a duration. Following that, You recently battled regarding your existence elevated here spanning 30 seconds, and every individual term applied regarding you. He gazed toward Newsom. Balanced, unwavering. You possess been battling your entire existence, executive. Merely absolutely never regarding them. 11 terms. And they rested across the space within the manner a ruling rests across a legal chamber. Absolutely not possessing a noise. However, possessing a mass that forces downward upon every single exterior and absolutely does not raise. Nobody chuckled, nobody moved, nobody executed anything whatsoever, spanning what appeared similarly to a highly extended duration. Because what had recently occurred absolutely did not represent humor, and absolutely did not represent an insult, and absolutely did not represent the variety regarding item you react toward utilizing your palms or your tone. It represented the variety regarding item you react toward utilizing the section regarding you that identifies reality when it presents itself entirely lacking caution. The section that comprehends preceding your intellect processes that an item possesses recently been stated that entirely lacks the ability to become unstated. Newsom remained positioned at the lectern. His palm shifted downward underneath the edge toward the alcove where the device rested. The device that had been vibrating silently spanning 40 minutes. The device his personnel had been supplying possessing messaging points and opposing arguments and pivots and phrases. The lifeline that had rescued him 3 instances previously this midday. The apparatus he had utilized spanning months to identify this individual as unintelligent, and publish images regarding his appearance and construct the identity that was intended to transport him toward the most massive platform across the globe. The device vibrated. He gazed downward, spanning the initial instance entire midday. Entirely nothing existed upon the display that possessed the ability to rescue him. Entirely no messaging point regarding 11 terms. Entirely no maneuver regarding a reality. Entirely no image. Entirely no description. Entirely no tag that possessed the ability to alter this toward a footage that functioned toward his benefit. He rotated the device completely downward, facing upon the lectern alcove. The screen contacted timber possessing a compact snap. Scarcely perceptible. The most silent noise inside the space. However, inside the quietness it transported. Every single lens inside the space recorded it. The individual who had expended months constructing an entire civic identity upon a display, placing the display facing downward opposite the Republic, because the display had ultimately entirely depleted regarding responses. A journalist located near the front coughed to clear her throat. Executive. Any reply. Gavin Newsom gazed toward the separation amidst the lenses and the individual located adjacent to him. The separation where neither optic nor rival possessed the ability to assist him. And he absolutely did not speak. Preceding the instance, the shared lenses severed their broadcasts. The footage already possessed an identifier. 15 seconds uninterrupted. Donald stating 11 terms. Newsom gazing downward. The device rotating over. The quietness. Ron DeSantis published completely inside the 60 minutes. 5 terms. He recently depicted the entire faction. Entirely nothing alternatively. Entirely no analysis. Entirely no expansion required. Because the 11 terms absolutely did not depict exactly one individual. They depicted a category, an entire class regarding civic entity, and DeSantis recognized it. And every single person who reviewed those 5 terms recognized it. And the identifying represented the item that caused the footage to move more rapidly than any single media announcement or electoral promotion possessed the ability to have ever transported it. Inside a corridor positioned completely outside the location. A Democratic representative who had endorsed Newsom spanning dual electoral cycles and a removal effort remained positioned possessing his spine resting against a stone partition, and spoke toward a journalist entirely lacking establishing optic contact. Gavin's difficulty is absolutely not that he became discovered. The representative stated, "It represents that we entirely recognized. We entirely recognized. We shielded regarding him spanning years, because that represents what you execute regarding your personal faction, even when your personal faction renders it difficult. However, you entirely lack the ability to shield regarding someone subsequent to the space ceases trusting. And that space ceased. He propelled away from the partition and traveled completely away, preceding the capturing device elevated upwards. That evening, upon a broadcast media discussion group, An analyst tried to assemble a protection. Executive Newsom possesses a provable history regarding funding inside the secondary anchor entirely lacking gazing upward away from her documents. Assuming the history remains so robust, why are 1.7 million citizens departing it? The analyst unsealed her oral cavity, sealed it. The discussion group transitioned onward. Donald stepped completely out regarding the structure completely into the California daylight. He absolutely did not offer an announcement. He absolutely did not execute a triumphant circuit. He paused, situated at the entryway, rotated and gazed backward toward the lectern, traversing the transparent barrier where Newsom continuously remained positioned. Device deactivated. Audio receiver active. Absolutely not speaking. Following that, he stated an item toward the assistant located adjacent to him. Silent, nearly toward his personal self, and the sole rationale anyone heard it represented that an extended audio receiver mounted upon an exiting filming vehicle recorded the boundary regarding it. Gorgeous territory, disgrace. Exactly one term resting inside the atmosphere subsequent to it. Following that, the vehicle entryway secured, and the convoy drove completely out, and the lenses followed it until it rotated the intersection and became vanished. Gavin Newsom maintained position situated at the lectern spanning an additional 40 seconds subsequent to the ultimate lens severed. His personnel moved closer. An individual contacted his upper limb. He elevated the device, maintained it spanning a duration entirely lacking rotating it over, and subsequently situated it inside his coat pocket, and traveled completely off the platform. He absolutely did not gaze toward the lenses located on the path completely out. He absolutely did not gaze toward anything whatsoever. He traveled within the manner an individual travels when he recently realized that the space he constructed his existence inside possesses an entryway he absolutely never registered, and it remained unsealed the entire duration, and everyone possessed the ability to observe traversing it, excluding him. Assuming you nodded even exactly once. Exactly once. Strike that approval button. Assuming you remain exhausted regarding observing individuals battle regarding their personal selves upon broadcast, while the citizens positioned behind them become disregarded. Follow entirely, immediately. Place exactly one term inside the responses, them, and distribute this alongside someone who recognizes what it appears similarly to perpetually continue arriving every individual day. Entirely no lens. Entirely no cheering. Entirely no publication exterior. Simply the labor. Because an individual ultimately stated it completely outwards loudly,